Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today it's my pleasure to have Keira Poulsen with us. Keira is a sacred writing coach and the founder of Freedom House Publishing Company. She coaches authors how to channel their books with ease and quickness. Keira is also mother to 5 children, a podcaster, an intuitive book medium, and 4 times author. Keira, it's so great to have you on the show.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I was so excited when you invited me. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you on, and I was really impressed with your 10-minute talk that you gave at Genius Network, which is how we met through Genius Network. And
hmm
I first saw you speak at the mic and at the Genius Network annual event in February. And yeah, I just was really impressed. And I'd love for you to start by sharing your origin story with our listener or viewer, because uh, you received a calling, and a lot of people just kind of do the whatever is the easiest thing or the thing that just kind of shows up at their doorstep. And I think that you received a pretty clear calling. So maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but walk us
Yeah, I
through
did.
what happened.
Well, first of all, thank you. I was very nervous to give that talk. But I am so happy I did. It's such a good experience. I love being in Genius, and everyone I've met has just been extraordinary. So it was actually 5 years ago that I would say my awakening happened. So I have 5 beautiful children. It was always my dream to be a mother. I was a massage therapist for 20 years. I started when I was like 17. I became a massage therapist very young. Always knew I wanted to heal, and that was my life. And it was pretty I hit a point where I was very unfulfilled. I had just done everything I'd ever thought I wanted to be, and I was stuck. And I remember it was my birthday dinner, and my husband said, "Well, what are your dreams for this year?" And we're in the middle of the restaurant, and I just start bawling. I'm like, I don't have any more dreams. Like, I don't even remember how to dream. I don't even know who I am anymore. And he invited me, like, you have 3 days to come up with some dreams. And so I began to pray. I'm a big prayer. I work with the divine a lot, and just praying, like, show me why I'm here. Show me why I'm here. 5 months. I mean, this wasn't like, and then 5 days later, I got my answer. Like 5 months of praying this every day. And my answer came in a way that I would never have imagined. And it was really, really intense. And it was the thing that was the catalyst for everything that I do now, which is all of my trauma memories actually resurfaced. So I had all these memories of being sexually abused as a child pulled to the surface, super traumatic for my body. I mean, as it is for anyone. The cellular memory, all of it coming back, that I was very suicidal. I was like, I can't live. I can't live in a world with this much pain. These kinds of memories raise my children in a world with this kind of abuse. And in that moment when I chose I was going to end my life, I felt God say, "You have work to do. You need to stay." And so I made a commitment that whatever I was inspired to do, I would do. If I was going to live in a world filled with hell and abuse and all this trauma, then everything that came to me, I would be a yes. And that was the beginning. That full year, 2017, I healed, went to a lot of EMDR. And in 2018, I received a calling to start a publishing house. And at that point, I wasn't coaching. I wasn't, like, nothing was happening in my life that would say, this is the path I should go on. But I followed it. So I remember going to the lawyer's office, getting it trademarked. I had all 5 of my kids, ages 2 to 12. They're like backflipping in the lawyer's office. It was a hot mess. I'm like setting up business bank accounts with babies asleep on me. And then nothing really actually happened with the publishing house for 2 years. 2 years, I actually just dove into my gifts, which was serving and helping women wake up their purposes. Fast forward, here we are 4 years later, and this publishing house is my purpose. It is my purpose to help people bring through powerful messages of truth and light to the world to transform humanity through these types of books. So that's a really fast forward version, but that's really where it all began. Was facing my trauma.
Wow. Do you have any trouble talking about this? I imagine you get this question a lot, like, how did this all start for you? And then you have to bring up that, well, it was this horrible trauma, these trauma memories that resurfaced. And I'm imagining that's got to be painful to even talk about that today.
You know, I feel like I've done a lot of healing work on it, that it's not super painful. I share it, even though it's very vulnerable, because there are so many who've been through this. So many. I mean, they say it's 1 in 4, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest. It's got to be 1 in 2. That's 1 in 4 who have been through sexual abuse, who've told authorities. So I share my story because those who are listening, I want them to know that you're never alone, and it doesn't define you, and it doesn't make your life horrible. You get to choose what happens. One of the things that one of my coaches has been Hardy, and what I love is that he says is it happens for you and not to you. And I would say that my trauma happened for me, and it made me who I am, and I wouldn't be the resilient seeker if it wasn't for all that I've been through. So I share because of that.
Right. Right. And there's another level that life happens for me, not to me, but life also happens by me, which is about being the co-creator of your life and this reality. So, how do you think that you might have opted in or volunteered for that trauma? Do you think that that was a soul contract that you entered into before you incarnated? Do you think that there was something um, uh, that was?
Yeah, I think I do. I actually do believe that I signed up for this.
Sounds like you see the gift in what happened to you and for you. Um, was there a certain moment that brought you that clarity? And was it something that you were shown or something that you did that brought about that clarity?
Yes. So I I was driving down the road one day, and actually I got this email, and it was like a mass email from a big blogger, and the headline of the email was like, uh, you have a book to write. And I'd never wanted to be an author. I'd never wasn't a dream of mine. I mean, I loved books, but I just never thought that was something I would do. But when I read that email headline, it like popped off the page, went into my heart, and I heard it like, "Oh my gosh, I have a book to write." And so I decided to just pray. All right, sure. What book do you want me to write? And I just put it out there, and I didn't really think much about it. And then one day I'm driving down the road, and because I'm very visual, this is how like the divine works with me. I see a lot of visions. I saw a vision of a book from the top down, and I see the words saying the hidden gifts within the trauma of sexual abuse. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm writing that book. There are no gifts in this trauma. That is a lie. And yet I had made this commitment that I would do everything I was inspired to do. And so, of course, I started to write this book. And as I wrote the book, The Hidden Gifts Within the Trauma of Sexual Abuse, I was shown all of the gifts. I was taught as I wrote this book. And that was the very first book I wrote. And that was the very first experience where I got to understand what it was like to channel a book, where I was taught when I put my fingers to my computer and words came through my hands. And I realized what a gift it was, because I saw, like, I am the seeker because I had so much pain. I am so resilient because of the pain. And then I watched my whole life begin to make sense of every decision I made, and who I was, and why I have this fierce passion to make a difference in the world. None of that would have been present if I hadn't been through the hell that I'd been through.
Hmm. And and do you have a sense of past lives that it makes sense that this happened because of perhaps some terrible things that you might have done in past lives? It's like, okay, well, what you put out there comes back to you 10x. So I must have done something in some past lives, or I'm just curious to hear what your thoughts are on this, because this isn't our first time around the sun.
Yeah. I was raised in a religion where there wasn't the concept of past lives. I've moved past that religion container, which has opened up my heart and mind to wonder and experiment more. I definitely don't personally believe that what we experience here is like a consequence of a past life. I do know that in my memories of any lives that were before this, it is only of trying to make a difference as a woman, and in most cases that didn't work so well for most women in the past. Most of them were burned, most of them were killed. I feel very deeply grateful to be alive at this time. What I do wouldn't have been accepted
Mm,
100 years ago. Who I am,
right.
being a book channeler, being an energy healer, being a woman who owns a publishing house to bring sacred ancient truths to the earth, that wouldn't have worked. I wouldn't have lived. I feel so damn lucky, so lucky to live right now so I can do the work that I do. And that is something I know down to my cells.
Yeah. 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 We absolutely would have been killed in past times for talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was killed
Yeah.
in past lives for my beliefs.
Yeah.
And you still have to stand in your truth. I remember hearing some news item about these young women who were put into a cage in the ocean by ISIS,
Mm.
so that they would recant their religion. I believe they were Christian, and they didn't, and so they were drowned.
Mm.
And so on one hand, what a tragedy, what, like, how horrific, and on the other hand, what a beautiful thing for them to be so connected and know their truth and the truth so much that they're not willing to recant and to disavow themselves of their connection
Yeah.
to the Creator.
Mm.
And death is only a doorway, so door we've gone through many, many times. So um, yeah, it feels pretty terrible for those who are left behind, but for those who are on the other side of the veil yet again, that's home.
Yeah.
It's an amazing, wonderful, beautiful place to be,
Mm.
and so much more. Like, this is hard, being in this dense, materialistic, uh, um, dark uh, uh, experience of life is hard. It's really hard, but there's so much that you get out of it.
Yeah.
It's like being in a pressure cooker, where you get to grow and evolve at a much faster rate. You go from a piece of coal to a diamond much more quickly than if you're just hanging out and partying and on the other side of the veil. But it comes with the hardships and the hard times.
Yeah. I know. I agree with you. I wrote my second book was called Rise Up and Awaken to the Joy of Being Human. And that came from this vision I had of me waiting to come down, just so excited, in line, ready to go, telling all my angels, all my friends, like, help me to remember like what my purpose is when I get down there. And one person right before I jumped into this world said, you have to be aware that suffering is the biggest distraction. So just be aware. And I was like, I got this. Like, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. And then I watched in this vision that I came down and then I got stuck in suffering and I wasted the whole thing. And I got back up there. And when I got up there, I was like, oh my gosh, I wasted the whole time. Like, I waited in line for the best ride of my life. And then I literally wasted it. And so then I watched in this vision where I got to like really ask my team, my spiritual team, like, you have to plant remembrances. You have to help me stay out of the trap of suffering. And then it was when I woke up, I was shown to write this book. And so I wrote this book, and it's a book plus a guide where people get to say, okay, what's my thing right now? What do I smell? I don't get to smell when I don't have this physical body. What can I touch? What can I do that's going to bring me joy right here so that I don't get stuck in the trap of suffering? Because what we have right now is magic. Yeah, there's a lot of hell and there's a lot of darkness and there's a lot of trauma and pain, but there's so much magic. And when we find the magic, it makes this human experience worth every second.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm curious to hear what the process is for you to receive channeling. Does it come in as automatic writing, or are you kind of dictating what you're hearing? Is it more of a knowing than it is a hearing of the words? And are there things that you do to prepare so that the channel is open?
Yeah.
Yeah, walk us through your process,
Yeah.
please.
So for me, it is automatic writing. Words come out of my hands that I don't know. Like, I don't even know what I'm saying when they're coming out. Sometimes I have to look up what a word means. These are not my words. And so for me, I have a 5-step process where we prepare the body. Because if this body is going to be a vessel for truths to come through, which in my belief, there are lots of really powerful truths that got deleted off this earth sometime in generations, that got deleted, ignored, hidden. And there's this opportunity for us to bring these truths down through writing, but we are the vessel. So I use this image in my talk at Genius Network, which is, you wouldn't take a coffee mug filled with mud to the sink and then fill it with water once and then drink out of it. You would clean the coffee mug over and over until it was clean enough to hold pure water. We are the coffee mug. If we're going to go and ask that we can channel through words and truth and light, this has to be cleared. So I have a 5-step process that I use, that I feel like the divine taught me, that prepares my mind, my body, and my soul to know when to channel. So if you want, we can walk through that. Do you want to walk through that? Okay. So I start
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
start with smell. And I have my smell here because I did it before you and I podcasted. I use rosemary, but I always tell people, find the smell that smells good to you. You don't want to pick a smell you don't like, because you're going to smell it all the time. And we only use this smell when we're about to channel. So the purpose is, you've connected the sense of smell to this practice. So at some point, you could just smell your essential oil and your body's just going to automatically move into this state of being because you've trained it over and over. So I start with smell. I put a few drops
Okay.
on my hands, rub them together, breathe them in. And then I visualize right at the crown chakra. So at the top of the head, I visualize divine light coming in, and this is the cleaning agent. So think of a power washer for our energy. And I ask that the divine light will come through and clean and cleanse and clear my whole entire system, all the way down to my toes. And then I imagine this light coming out of my toes, going up and around my body, sealing it up like a shield. Because if we're going to open up to channel, it's really smart and wise that we also place a shield of light around us so that we are really clear. The only light is coming through. So we clean the body, shield it. Then we call in our angels. So I believe we have a spiritual team that supports our work. They work, in my belief, they work in the law of agency, which means that if we don't ask, they don't really get to participate. If we ask, they are 100% in, our greatest support team will ever have. So we call them in. We're going to call in all of our angels, our guides, our leaders, our teachers, our helpers, our healers, the ascended masters who've been assigned to us. You don't have to use my words, but these are the way I do it. I call them in through the divine light, and then I give them an assignment, right? So like right now, I did this process before. I have 5 kids. Actually, I have 7 kids at my house right now. It's summer. No one's at school. I asked my angels, can you please have the house be quiet for an hour so I can podcast? Like I give them that assignment. It's been 32 minutes. It's pretty quiet. Once that hour marker hits, though, it's going to get mayhem out there because they really do support in the way we ask, right? So you can ask for quiet while you're writing. You can ask for your mind to be clear. You can ask for the next chapter of your book to come through. Whatever you need, you just ask of your angels. So we'll just put it into place of asking that our angels will hold this space so that writing can come through with ease, with grace, with power, with potency, with light. And then I do the final step, which to me is the most important step. I call it the prayer of light or the preparation of the body. Those are the words that I call it. Really, all you're doing is you're prepping your body to receive. So I ask light to touch my ears so I can spiritually hear what needs to be heard. I ask the light will touch my third eye, that I'll have access to all of my spiritual gifts. Then I ask the light will cleanse my arms all the way down to my fingertips that I may write only what needs to be written. And in that space, now I move forward and I start to channel.
Beautiful. And how many times a day are you doing this process?
Well, I do this process a lot because I do this process before I podcast. I do this process before I coach. I do this process every time I'm going to do anything that requires my higher self to be running the show. So instead of my humanness and all my flaws and all my weaknesses, I do this to invite my higher self to come forward and really be the main driver of the car, right?
Mm-hmm. So for somebody who's not familiar with higher self,
Mm-hmm.
or they think that's just yet another woo-woo expression, light avatar, oversoul, all that. How do you make it accessible to somebody who doesn't and probably they're not even listening by this point, but to somebody who's kind of skeptical, how do you convey that concept of a higher self? Like, aren't you pure 100%? Aren't you like they're I'm just trying to imagine what somebody would think who's not really into that concept.
So I think
What would you say to
a
them?
good way to be is like, hey, look at your day. When are you functioning at your highest? Do you feel like you're in flow? When do you feel like you are serving at the highest capacity? To me, that's your higher self. My human self shows up around 8 p.m. I am impatient. I'm tired. I'm grumpy. Like someone chews a chip next to me. Like I just want to cry. It's too much for my body. That's like my higher self, the higher way of Keira, isn't really present. I'm just really human. All my flaws are really loud. So it doesn't really mean like this woo woo thing, even though it could be. It's really just like when our higher version of who we are is showing up, we get to be a greater service to humanity. When we are in our more human self, well, we just kind of, we're a little bit in the survival mode, a little bit in impatient, cranky mode. And we all have that. We all have both sides. So it is all whole, but doing this process allows me to step into that higher self, that higher way of being easier, a higher vibrational frequency than my human self.
Yeah. A way that I've learned this from Kabbalah is there's the body consciousness that craves sugar, that wants sex, that wants like all the pleasures of all the trappings of a physical existence, and then there's the soul consciousness that uh, has the bigger picture in mind and wants to be benevolent and loving, and understands that there are ripple effects.
Yeah, I love that.
To our actions. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way is just kind of a vertical view. Like if you're on the ground in the trenches, you're potentially in the weeds, or you're potentially, getting stuff done on the physical um, plane. But there's a higher vantage point above the tree line or above the tree canopy that can see more of the bigger picture, and that's your higher self. And I don't know if you've ever read the book Destiny of Souls or Journey of Souls. Both of those books are about the time between lives. And so this past life regressionist would really delve deep into experiences of his patients, where he would have them focus on in between and what it's like to be over there on the other side of the veil and kind of processing what their life here on earth was like and what they did right and wrong, the life review and the planning for the next lifetime and the connecting with the loved ones who were left behind, letting them know that everything's fine, all that sort of stuff. And one thing I remember from Destiny of Souls is that it's only a percentage of your entire soul that goes into a body that connects at the at the base chakra, and might be 60%, might be 40%, but some of it's left behind on the other side of the veil. So you're never completely over here. Part of you is over there. And I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that.
I've never heard that, but I love it. I'm excited. I want to read those books. That feels pretty accurate, right? Like that feels very true. And I think we get to access that piece of us. For me, I really like I like being in the higher realms. I like to be, when I'm working in my chakras, crown chakra, third eye, these are my favorite places to be. There's something really delicious about realizing that life here isn't just about the matter, the things we can touch, the things that we see. There's so much more, and that piece is like what my soul delights in. I love the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and yet you have to pay the bills and show up for work or show up for clients and all that. Like, you can't neglect your physical existence. You still have to go to the gym. You still have to show up to pick up your kids. And some people, and I can speak from experience, lose that groundedness when they have an awakening, and they're like, wow, I'm so in the clouds and everything. And then everything falls to pieces. And then you learn, like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to be up in the clouds. I'm supposed to draw down that energy and bring it here to everyone and everything that's in this physical realm, and not just be floating high.
Yeah. And that's where the fun is for me. Is I love entrepreneurship. I love creating, I love business, and I love bringing both the worlds together. I work with my angels. My angels are my marketing team. I get so many I have such better luck working with my angels versus Facebook ads, right? Like my angels go out and find my perfect fit clients versus the Facebook ads that I spent all this money on. When we can combine the spiritual realm with the physical realm, wild success is possible. And it's so much fun. It's so much fun to pull them both together. That's what I have found.
Yeah. One thing that I've been advised on from above is that it's not about so much getting your hustle on, although that is very helpful and important if you're too much in the clouds. I had the heat turned on underneath me to get back into hustle mode, but I got a little too much into that, and then they're reminding me that it's not so much about the hustle; it's more about the creativity, how I add value and make breakthroughs and make leaps in my income is through my creativity, not through my hustle. And I lost track of that, or I just thought, wow, I'm hustling. I'm, it's like the Gary V kind of hustle,
Yeah.
right? Gary Vaynerchuk, and it's been an amazing last 3 months in terms of revenue. And yet it was not so much about creativity. It was really about tuning in and getting my hustle on and directing that hustle intentionally and strategically. And I remember just learning recently that Vishen Lakhiani, the founder of Mind Valley, shared the story of how when he was a broke, um, dialing for dollars sort of sales guy, working at a sales or working in a sales role at a law firm software company. They'd have him go through the phone books of his region and just alphabetical orders, call all the law firms. And then he went to the Silva Method workshop and connected to his higher self and connected to the other side of the veil, connected to the heavens. And he stopped going through the phone book in that way. He would just only call the law firms that he felt this intuitive pull, and then his sales doubled. And then he did it another week or two, and his sales doubled again, and then the sales doubled again. Within a few months, he was the VP of sales, or some sort of VP at the company. He was promoted
Wow.
quite significantly. So this is an example of working in working with the energy in a way that it's in partnership. It's like you're a conductor of an orchestra. You're not just hustling. You're not just tuning in and being all woo-woo. Not that woo-woo is bad. I love woo-woo, but it's like you have to be feet on the ground getting stuff done, but in a very intentional, strategic way.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Amen to all of that. I think that's one of the, as I work with a lot of like spiritual entrepreneurs and people who have these divinely guided messages that they are here to bring, the hardest part is bringing them over from the spiritual realm into like, all this can't happen if you don't take action. But the action can be divinely guided. You can be intuitively guided on your action, but without the action, who cares if you received the best vision in the world? Who cares if you've received this message that's going to go change people's lives? Because if you don't have action, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to stay inside of you and it's going to weigh your body down, because that's what happens with inspiration. When we don't bring it through, it gets heavy inside of our bodies. So that's the place I like to play with the people I work with in my mastermind. It's like, hey, here's how you channel, and then here's how we get into action, because without the action, nothing else really matters.
Yes, we live in a world of action, and in fact, you can get sick if you hold your gifts in. There's a lady I know who she's a powerful energy healer, and when she was living in on a remote village in South America or Central America, people would come for healings from very far away tribes. She was really well known as a child to heal people. And then when she came to North America, she didn't tell anybody about it. She didn't do any healings, and she hasn't done any since. Now she's an old woman. And that's not like, that is not good.
Yeah.
That is so not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Living with expressing our gifts is how, my belief is how we live to our fullest potential, our fullest purpose. It's very scary to share your gifts. Like, it took me a long time for me to tell people that I could channel books. It took me a long time to be able to say I could be a medium for someone's book. But as soon as I really owned my gifts, gosh, it was like my heart exploded with joy. Like, this is what I came to do. Oh my gosh, we just put on the super boots. Like, let's jump, let's play. And so there's always fear in front of owning your gifts. But as soon as you do, the whole world opens up, and it's so much fun.
Yeah. Something I don't know that, if everyone here listening can relate to this, but I've seen it. It's a super state of consciousness where somebody is unrecognizable in that super state. And my spiritual awakening that first got me out of agnosticism in 2012 and into, it got me connected to the Creator. I was given a diksha by a oneness monk, and he goes into these super states where you he doesn't look anything like he does like when he's normal.
Wow.
You wouldn't recognize him. He can barely walk. He needs help to move around when he's in these super states. Like he's kind of it looks like he's drunk or something. And yeah, just because somebody is in a super state doesn't mean that they're a good person in their normal state too. So you can get kind of enamored by somebody being in a super state, like, wow, this person awakened me, or this person is clearly so connected to the divine. I want that. And then the danger is to put them up on a pedestal as a guru when maybe when they're in normal mode, they're kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
I have some thoughts. I'm just trying to decide if I want to share the thoughts. I would say that yes, I have experienced this. I have some really personal, painful. It's painful, right? It's painful to have a guru teacher who really shows up powerfully, and then in their real life isn't in the light. And what that really taught me was like, I mean, I'm a big believer of support and coaches. I mean, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches and programs and being taught. I'm a student forever. I will always be a student. But what that experience taught me, right? What that taught me was no one gets to be my guru. I am the guru inside of me. I am my wise sage teacher. I can always be a student, but nobody gets put on that pedestal because nobody should be on a pedestal. We are all broken at some level. I mean, I've got so many faults. I could take up hours talking about all the areas that I fail and am weak at. And also, I choose to show up even though I'm not perfect. It's those who say I'm perfect. Those are the ones you gotta, maybe be a little bit careful of. But yes, I definitely
And
agree.
also it's so important to transfer the credit. Like, let's say that you channel something that is amazing, life-changing. Maybe it's just not even part of a book or a blog post or a podcast interview. It's just a one-on-one conversation with somebody, and you're relaying information that is so important that it changes the trajectory of that person's life. Is so important to transfer the credit. That wasn't me. Right. And even the way you say it has to put you in the back seat or not even on the bus. It's like, that was all God. Instead of, I'm just the messenger. I'm just the humble messenger. No, that's still about you. Like, this was God. God showed up for you right now in your time of need. This is all God. Very, very important, because you can get quite a spiritual ego, especially when it's not just delivering good works, but delivering actual miracles. Because these are God's miracles. You're just the pizza delivery guy.
Right? Oh, I feel that. I'm writing a book right now that oh man, I'm so excited and so nervous to send it into the world, because it's like my other books were really top level, right? Like they were kind of just like, they're nice. I mean, it's good. This one is like me really showing up and sharing my gifts, and I start the book off like, I don't even know what I'm writing about in this book. Like, this is all God. Like, this is not my work. And that's like really like kind of scary to put out into the world. But I feel like those statements need to be said. Like, I just get to be able to show up so that this message can come here. But like, this is not me. And this is something that is like much bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I think it's important to distinguish for our listener channeling versus intuiting. So when you get intuition for a book that you're working on, which that's happened for me with my self-help book I'm working on, Living in a Friendly Universe. So that is through intuition. It's not channeling. I'm not receiving exact uh, paragraphs of copy from above, but I will, apparently, from what I'm being told, be getting that at some point for future books. I will be channeling future books, but not this one. Could you differentiate those two ways of receiving guidance and information for a book?
Yeah, I like that distinction. I'm excited for your book, though. That sounds really beautiful. I love that title. I would say for me, it's both. It's not just always pure channeling, it's not just all pure intuition. They kind of dance together, right? Like intuitively, I know where I'm supposed to go next. Or I, like for my current book, I need a healing code for this subject. So I go into prayer, I ask, like palms open, can I have this healing code? And who can teach it to me? And then I just channel it through. But intuitively, I know what healing code I need to ask for. So it's like it's a dance, right? Like I know, okay, well, like I've got all these clients, they're struggling with this. I'm going to ask for this healing code. Now, that's like intuitive mixed with channeling. Channeling is when you are writing and words are just coming out of your hands and like you don't even know what you're writing. You go back and read it later and you're like, I don't even remember writing this. That's channeling. But intuition has like such a huge piece. They like really, they're not one without the other to me. You got to use both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like there'll be pieces I get, like the title or the subtitle of the book, where that's channeled. That was just handed to me, and then there is intuition around, like, okay, I should write about this.
Yeah.
Or this is an important story. This is an important teaching point or concept.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm excited. When does your book come out?
Oh, I'm not sure yet. Yeah, it needs another round of, like, we have a first draft manuscript, but it needs some work.
Awesome.
I need to up level the storytelling some more, but yeah, I'm excited to get it out there in the world.
I'm excited. You'll have to
Yeah.
let me
So I don't
know.
have a date yet.
Okay.
Yep.
That'll
Yep.
be fun.
So one thing I wanted to share with you and with our listener that I think is just the most amazing kind of true north sort of way to align oneself, and that is the most benevolent outcome, or MBO.
Mm.
This is a concept from Tom Moore. I learned it from Jan. Gosh, what is her last name? She's the partner of Lee Carroll, who channels Cryon.
Mm.
Jan Tober.
Mm-hmm.
Jan Tober. And so I did a reading with her, and she shared this MBO thing, most benevolent outcome.
I love
I'll
that.
include a link in the show notes. But this gives you a way of asking, for things like optimal health, and the um, healing or dissolving of relationship difficulties and all sorts of different things, right?
Mm.
World peace, like everything. Just ask for the most benevolent outcome for this person and everyone else involved.
I love that.
So it's a great catch-all, and I find myself asking for that all the time because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the interplay or the inner relationships between all these different people. If I just say, well, please heal this rift between these two family members, and in a prayer, that doesn't take into account the highest and best good that's coming about from that rift in other family members that are watching it saying, you know what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reach out and heal this rift that I have between my other family member, because I see what's happening and all the pain being caused between these two other family members. So I don't know all the dynamics and everything that's at play. So if I just ask for the most benevolent outcome, then that catches all of it, right? Or if I ask, let's say, Archangel Gabriel, please convey this message of forgiveness, of request for forgiveness to this particular family member or friend, then I say what I want to say, and then please convey this at the time and in the way that yields the most benevolent outcome for this person and for everyone involved. Then I know it's like it's going to be so precisely orchestrated, and I don't have to know all the details.
That's so beautiful. I'm going to take that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Another thing that you shared that I want to point out that's really cool is this idea of having something that is like an anchor. In your case, you gave the example of an essential oil that helps you anchor in the channeling. You only use it when you're channeling as a process to open up the connection. That reminded me of something I learned from Keith Cunningham, and it's very practical and not spiritual at all in the traditional sense, but it just there's an analogy here that I think is pertinent, and that is he has this thinking chair that he will only sit in when he's going to do big picture thinking. So what another amazing anchor to use, right? I'm only going to use this essential oil when I'm doing this one type of process or open a particular type of connection. When I want to do my big picture thinking, I'm only going to sit in that chair in those times. I'm not going to be surfing my email or social media or anything like that. It's only big picture thinking. So I'm curious to hear if you have any other recommendations or examples of that sort of thing.
I do. I really believe that our environment definitely is the catalyst for whatever we're doing, right? So we would never put on our gym clothes and be like, we're heading to church. We would never put on our dress and be like, I'm heading to the gym. Like, the body responds to what we do in our environment. So for me, a big piece of my work is I teach how to create sacred space, which is not hard. It's just find a space in your home, on your land, in your life where you dedicate it to communing with the divine, to communing with your higher power. And all that happens in that space is sacred work. So, I have people who clear out closets and they have it in their closet. I have people who have a corner in their bedroom where they have a chair and they only sit on their chair to do their sacred work. I have a tent in the back of my house on our land that overlooks the mountains. It's dedicated to my sacred space, my sacred work. There's something really just tribal inside of us that when we set apart and dedicate something to our sacred work, that everything in our body lines up. It's like it gets to be at peace. It gets to be at ease. And so that is it's a big part of the work that I do.
Yeah, very important. And when you said sacred space, that reminded me of something I learned from interviewing a past guest about. So he lost his son in an accident, and he's been communicating with his son through what he calls thin spaces. So and his son's bedroom is one of those thin spaces. So this is where he would be able to get the messages the most clearly and the loudest. His name is Joe McQuillan. So he's an elderly gentleman, really sweet guy, and he wrote all about this in his books. So thin spaces, and it's not just a place, three-dimensional place. It's also in time too. So he goes into his son's room at 3 a.m. because that's when he gets the best signal. with his son. And yeah, there's thin spaces all over the place, all over the world, right? You go to Sedona and you're like, whoa, I feel these vortexes. I am plugged in.
Yeah.
So any examples of thin spaces or thin times that you want to share?
Well, early morning is definitely my thin space. I mean, maybe it's because I have 5 kids and they're all asleep, but the that early morning spot, I like to wake up at 5:55. That's a real magic time for me, and
Hmm.
that's my thin space. But I just led a sacred writing retreat in Zions in Utah, and whew, holy moly, the vibration in Zions was it was unreal. The work that we got done was like light years because we were in that. But I love how he says that thin space. It was definitely that. Um, but I will say for everyone it's different. For me, mornings are when I can connect easier. A lot of people aren't morning people. So night is when they connect. There's no right or wrong way. Everybody just gets to find what lands best for them.
Right. Well, I'm inspired to share with you what 555 means according to the book Angel Numbers by Kyle Gray.
Oh, I want to
So
hear.
this is the digital clock 555 number, not the regular 555 number. So this is in the first section of the book. 5:55. All of your efforts are now paying off. Know that the universe and your angels are supporting you in creating and living an abundant life.
Mm.
So there you go. That's
Oh
for
my gosh, I love that. Okay, you'll have to send me the link of that book. I'm going to want that book.
you. Yep. Yeah, awesome. Oh, this was so fabulous. I just love connecting and you know, sharing and learning and all that. And it's just you're such a gift and such a force for good in the world and a force for God. So
Thank you.
if there is any like last thought, pearl of wisdom, or anything that you wanted to share with our listener, and then of course your contact information and all that for folks to work with you and your company if they wanted to get their own book out the
Yeah.
door. What would be your wisdom nugget and then your contact
Well,
info?
first of all, thank you. Thank you for having me on. This has been delightful. Also, huge thank you to our angels. Kept 7 kids quiet for an hour. Huge props on that miracle. And for me, I think the message is it's really easy to hear this and for people to say, oh, but I am like not gifted or I am not good enough or like, how could I channel, blah, 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 like all these things. My message is that anyone and everyone has this ability because God will speak to anyone and everyone. The divine will speak to all if you just seek, if you just ask. If you're willing to participate in that kind of divine collaboration, you don't have to be anything but willing. So, this is for everyone.
Hmm.
And it is a magical experience that will transform you down to your cells. So that's my message.
Yeah, and just a corollary on that, it's not just that this divine collaboration is for anyone and everyone. It is our
Yeah.
birthright, but it is also for all circumstances, from the very biggest, most challenging, to the smallest, seemingly most trivial.
Yeah.
And a great example of that is parking angels.
Yes.
Right, somebody who just seems to get the best parking spots all the time. It's like, what in the heck? Like, uh, how does this always happen for you? You know, the best parking spot just shows up, and I spend 15 minutes circling around parking lots all the time, and you just always get the best parking spots. Well, I have parking angels. I'm like, parking angels? Are you serious? Like, don't they have more important things to do than find you a parking spot? It's like, no, that's not how it
Yeah.
works. Like the angels are working in collaboration with you on everything and anything that you
Yeah.
want. Like if you desire it, it's already
Mm.
there. The fulfillment has already happened. You just haven't, it's not been revealed yet to you. So the more you work in collaboration on the small things, the more you're willing to call them in for the big ones.
Oh, That just gave me goosebumps. Yes, yes, yes. All day long. All day long, I ask my angels for help all day. Like, hey, I have 2 minutes to figure out what I'm cooking for dinner. Can I have an idea? And I literally am shown different things in my pantry. Boom. It's so fast. We can live such an easier life if we just ask. If we just ask. That's the biggest piece.
Yeah. It's all in the
It
asking.
is.
It's all in the
It is.
asking. Yeah. And you mentioned goosebumps. Another way of framing it is angel bumps.
Mm,
This is a confirmation from above that what you just received is true.
yeah.
Like
I
somebody
love
says,
that.
"Oh, that just gave me goosebumps all over," or that feels electric to me. It's confirmation.
Mm.
It's like the Facebook like on what we've
Yes.
just received.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for having me on the show. This has been delightful.
Yes, likewise. And so, what's your website, and what are your socials, and
Mhm.
where do they best go to work with you?
Thank you. So, if they want to learn how to channel right, go to keirapoulsen.com. I have two masterminds. I have a mastermind for women. I have only 2 spots left in there. And I actually today am launching my mastermind for men. So I'm really excited to help men be in this space together, learning how to bring through their messages. But if you just want to publish, you can go over to freedomhousepublishingco.com. And we've got a lot of amazing books coming out right now. We have a book hitting almost every week right now. It's just like such a wild, fun experience to watch these beautiful authors become published, share their messages with the world. A book we had go live 2 days ago is like ranked #1 in all the areas. It's just like so exciting. So those are the areas. Instagram, same thing. My name, Keira Poulsen, or Freedom House Publishing Co. And um, I think what I would love to do is I'll email you and just give you the link to my free masterclass. So everybody who's listening can jump in and practice these tools so that they can start to bring these messages through.
Awesome. That sounds great, and thank you for that wonderful gift. We'll make sure that it's included in the show notes for this episode.
Fabulous. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Keira. Thank you, listener. Get out there and reveal some light. We'll catch you on the next episode. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.